What I'd like to do in this session is share some thoughts and some ideas on how your mind works a little bit, and then how we think, and then a tool that you can use if you use it properly to bring about meaningful change. There's a formula called I times V equals R. Imagination times vividness equals reality to the subconscious. So if you imagine something in the first person, present tense, it records here as though it actually happened. Now, if you got sanity, you know it didn't. Some people can't distinguish the difference. But imagination times vividness equals reality. So if you work with athletes, athletes will imagine a play over and over and over and over and over in their mind. And when they're in action, they don't have to think about it, it just free flows. There are studies done that you can imagine yourself on the foul line shooting foul shots, and the improvement is just as strong as if you was on the line shooting. So I times V equals R. Now, unfortunately, we have a tendency to imagine bad things instead of good things. You know, we get into that downward spiral and start worrying about what's going on, not realizing that that records in our brain. When I had a stroke about 2 years ago, and then it was on Valentine's Day, and I was meeting my wife for dinner, and I had a whole day, and Kat was with me the early part of the day, and I went in, I was shooting a video, 4-hour video interview, and I went in to get a Starbucks, and my right leg wasn't working right, and I thought I went to sleep in the car, and I went and got a cup of Starbucks, and then I met Kat and did 4 hours on the, and then my voice was starting to slur, and I had to drive over to West Seattle and sign a contract, and I went over to West Seattle, and I could hardly write, you know, and I didn't know what was going on, and then I was meeting my wife for Valentine's Day dinner, and so I stopped and got a bouquet of flowers and a Valentine's Day card, and got down to the restaurant, and I went to meet my wife for dinner. By dessert, she said, "I'm taking you to the hospital." And I woke up the next morning, and my whole right side was dead. Couldn't move. I used to be a professional fighter, and I'd run like 5 miles and box 15 rounds, and just, you know, to just move my finger, it took that much energy of running 5 miles, just to move the little finger. But I understood the concepts of constructive synthetic visualization, like imagination times vividness equals reality. So I knew that the brain would create pathways if I kept visualizing that in my mind. So I would lay there and I would be working with my finger, but I would also be visualizing the energy coming from the brain into my hand, visualizing it into my hand. I recovered from that stroke and absolutely blew people's mind away, because I knew that my mind had to be a part of that. I had, you know, I went from there, and in a short period of time, and I would go down. I had a physical therapist that worked with me, and they would take those exercises, and I would never stop. See, but I would use my mind and the exercise too, because I know that I times V equals R. A lot of people don't realize that what the biggest power they got is in here. So you take affirmations. An affirmation is a statement of fact. It should be written in the first person present tense, as though it's already happening. Now you have to know the difference yourself mentally. It's first person present tense. So affirmation will begin with I am. I am. It's easy for me. I enjoy. And so you make that affirmation, and there's a concept: if you sow a thought, you reap an act. You sow a thought, you reap an act. So you sow thoughts of honesty, you reap acts of honesty. So when I first started the affirmation process, one of the first affirmations I made is that I'm an honest human being and always follow through on my commitments. And I would affirm that, and I would see myself in situations where normally I would be there to do something. I mean, casing the joint or something like that. And so I would affirm that. I'm an honest human being and always follow through on my commitments. Now, I used to be a safe cracker. They came out, when they first come out with the safes, they come out with the key lock and the combination. Don't take no notes. They had a key lock on the combination. Now, the reason for the key lock on the combination was in a department store or a supermarket. If they didn't have a key lock on the com, they either had to leave the safe open or give all their clerks the combination. But with a key lock, during the safe, when the store was open, they could give them a key, and they could get the key and open the safe. They didn't have to know the combination. Well, what they didn't know when they first did that was that you could take a vice grip or a pipe wrench, and when it was on key lock, you could take a pipe wrench and turn it half turn to the right, and you'd pull the tumblers and you could open the safe. So we work in a team of 4. Is this on tape? Damn. But anyway, don't share this in the plant. But anyway, because there's people trying to learn this stuff. But anyway, they don't have those no more. We'd work in a team of 4. You'd have a diver, and the diver was the guy who went to the safe. And then you have a blocker, and that was the toughest job. Have a big guy like you, Bet, that had a block. You don't let nobody come near the safe. Then you'd have a turn person, which was generally a woman. And she would get a clerk or one of the cashiers who could see the safe, and I need some help over here. Could you help me? So they moved the person so they couldn't see. Then the diver would go to the safe, open the safe, come out with the money, go to with the money, close the safe, and you'd leave. You have signals to get, and if you got a really a big bag, life is good. And so then the whole crew leaves, and they don't know they've been beat till somebody goes to the safe maybe 2 or 3 hours later. So I could go into a store at that time in my life, or a department store, anything like that. I could be there 5 minutes. I would tell you what kind of a safe they had, whether they had the key lock on the combination, who the manager was, whether there was alarms, in 5 minutes. And if you asked me what did they sell in there, I couldn't tell you. Not at all. Couldn't tell you. And I was out of the joint for a couple of years, and I turned my life around. And I went into a supermarket one time, and it was like just a whole awareness. And I was in there for 10 or 15 minutes, and I liked cigars and good fruit and meat and stuff like that. And I'd come out, and it hit me just like an awareness. I didn't even know if they had a safe. Didn't even know if they had a safe. And I said, damn. Do you understand what I'm saying? Had zero value to me. But if you ask me, do they got a good selection of cigars, I could tell you. Do they have a good selection of fruit? I could tell you. Does that make sense to you? But you see what happened through the affirmation process is that whole underneath here changed. And the things are of value, but you need to use the affirmation. You sow a thought, you reap an act. It's just like anything else. You sow thoughts of anger, you reap acts of anger. You sow thoughts of jealousy, you reap acts of jealousy. You sow thoughts of love, you reap acts of love. You sow a thought, you reap an act. You sow an act, you reap a habit. Honesty becomes a habit, just like dishonesty. It would be just as hard for me to be dishonest.